I sat in the corner of the room, my eyes tracing the familiar curves of the grand piano that had once been the centerpiece of my life. Its polished surface gleamed in the soft light of the chandelier, but there was something about it that no longer brought me comfort. Not since Lulu, my eldest son's wife, had set her sights on it. She had never been subtle about her desire to claim it, and today, at this family gathering, I knew she was going to make her move. "Oh, I bet you play wonderfully, mother-in-law," Lulu said, her voice dripping with mockery as she smirked in my direction. She knew exactly what she was doing. She wasn't here to compliment me. No, she wanted to humiliate me in front of the family. Her elite music conservatory background was the only thing she ever seemed to take pride in, and I had grown tired of her flaunting it at every opportunity. My name is Myra Brown. I'm 60 years old now, living alone in a house far too large for just me. My husband, Tom, passed away 5 years ago, and my 3 sons have all moved on with their own lives. Scott, my eldest, lives nearby with Lulu. He's the only one who checks on me regularly. But even then, it's more out of obligation than anything else. Lulu, on the other hand, has made it her mission to undermine me at every turn. I could see her eyes darting toward the grand piano. It had belonged to my late husband, Tom, a gift he had given me when we were young and full of dreams. Music had always been a passion for both of us, but after his death, I could no longer bring myself to play. That piano held too many memories, and as much as it pained me to admit, it had become a source of tension in my family. Lulu had her eye on it for years. She wanted to possess it, to take it from me, as if, by doing so, she could claim a piece of my husband's legacy. I could see it in the way she smirked every time she mentioned it, and today, as the family gathered to celebrate my 60th birthday, I knew she was going to push me. Lulu had never been easy to deal with. From the moment Scott introduced her to the family, I had sensed that she was trouble. She carried herself with an air of superiority, always reminding us of her conservatory background, as if the rest of us were beneath her. But Scott adored her, and I had kept my opinions to myself for his sake. After all, she was the woman he had chosen to marry. Their marriage had been a whirlwind, driven by a false pregnancy. When they first announced the news, I had been shocked. But I wasn't surprised when it turned out to be a mistake. Lulu had never been pregnant, but the damage was done. Scott, kind and gentle as always, had comforted her, brushing it off as an innocent misunderstanding. "Everyone makes mistakes," he had said. But deep down, I knew there was more to it. Lulu had wanted to trap him, to secure her place in the family by any means necessary, and now she wanted my piano. "You really should play for us, Myra," Lulu continued, her smirk widening as she saw the discomfort flicker across my face. "It would be such a shame to let that beautiful piano go to waste." I took a deep breath, willing myself to stay calm. There was no point in engaging with her. I had never played the piano in front of Lulu, and I wasn't about to start now. Playing had always been something private, something I shared only with Tom. It was our connection, and I wasn't going to let her mock that. But Lulu wasn't one to back down easily. She had a way of pushing people's buttons, and I could see that she was enjoying this moment. Her eyes gleamed with satisfaction as she leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms smugly. "What's the matter, Myra? Afraid to play in front of everyone? Or is it that you can't play anymore?" My heart pounded in my chest, but I refused to rise to her bait. "The piano is important to me, Lulu. It's not something I play for show." She raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "Oh, I see. You're holding on to it for sentimental reasons. How sweet." The sarcasm in her voice was undeniable, and I could feel my patience wearing thin. But wouldn't it be better to let someone who actually knows how to play enjoy it? Someone like me, perhaps. I knew where this was going. Lulu wanted the piano, and she wasn't going to stop until she got it. But that piano wasn't just a piece of furniture. It was a part of my past, a part of my life with Tom. Letting it go would be like losing him all over again. "I'm sorry, Lulu," I said, my voice steady despite the anger boiling inside me. but the piano stays with me." For a moment, there was silence in the room. The other family members glanced between us, sensing the tension but unsure of how to intervene. Scott, sitting quietly beside Lulu, looked uncomfortable but said nothing. He never did when it came to her. It was as if he was afraid to upset her, and I couldn't blame him. Lulu had a way of turning everything into a drama, of making herself the victim no matter the situation. "Fine," Lulu finally said, her smirk never faltering. "But don't be surprised if you regret that decision, Myra." Her words hung in the air, a veiled threat that sent a chill down my spine. But I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of a reaction. I simply nodded, standing up from my chair. "Excuse me," I said, and without another word, I left the room. As I walked down the hallway toward the kitchen, I could hear the murmur of voices behind me. The family had gone back to their conversations, but I knew Lulu's words would linger. She had planted the seed of doubt, and now she would water it with her lies. Lulu had a history of spreading rumors, twisting the truth to suit her narrative. Shortly after she married Scott, she had told the neighbors that I had been opposed to their marriage and that the stress had caused her to miscarry. It was a complete fabrication. There had never been a pregnancy to begin with. But Lulu was a master manipulator, and she knew how to play the part of the tragic heroine. The neighbors had pitied her, and I had become the villain in her story. I had tried to confront her about it once, but she had turned it around on me, playing the victim as always. "Mother-in-law, how could you believe such lies? I would never say such a thing," she had said, her voice full of feigned innocence. "You don't trust me, do you?" Scott had taken her side, of course. He couldn't see through her act, and I had been the one left feeling foolish. It was clear that Lulu had no intention of backing down, and I had decided to let it go for the sake of family peace. But the rumors had continued, and I had been forced to endure her constant needling in silence. As I stood in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, I wondered how much longer I could keep doing this. How much longer could I allow Lulu to manipulate and control the narrative? I knew that confronting her directly would only lead to more drama, more lies. But ignoring her wasn't working either. My thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. I turned to see my granddaughter, Emma, peeking around the corner. She was shy, just like her father, my second son, Michael, but she had a sweetness about her that always warmed my heart. "Grandma," she whispered, her big brown eyes wide with curiosity. "Can I see the piano?" I smiled, feeling some of the tension leave my body. Emma was one of the few bright spots in my life, and I could never say no to her. "Of course, sweetheart," I said, taking her hand and leading her back into the living room. As we entered, the room fell silent again. Lulu's eyes followed us as we approached the piano, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. But for once, I didn't care what she thought. This moment wasn't about her. I opened the lid of the piano and guided Emma's small hands to the keys. "Do you want to try playing?" I asked softly. Emma nodded, her face lighting up with excitement. She pressed a key, and the sound echoed through the room, pure and beautiful. It was a simple note, but it filled the air with a kind of magic I hadn't felt in years. I watched as Emma's fingers danced across the keys, her eyes wide with wonder. She was a natural, just like her father had been when he was her age. Music had always been a part of our family, and seeing Emma at the piano brought back memories I had long buried. But those memories were quickly shattered by the sound of Lulu's voice. "Grandma's piano isn't a toy," she said sharply, her eyes narrowing as she stood up from her chair. "It's a valuable instrument, and it's not something a child should be playing with." Emma's hands froze on the keys, and she looked up at me with wide, frightened eyes. I could feel the tension rising in the room, and I knew I had to diffuse the situation before it escalated. "She's not hurting anything, Lulu," I said, my voice calm but firm. "She's just playing." Lulu crossed her arms, her smirk returning. "That piano is worth more than your house," she said coldly. "If you can't appreciate its value, maybe you should let someone who does take care of it." My heart sank at her words, but I refused to let her see the pain she had caused. Instead, I gently guided Emma off the piano bench and gave her a reassuring smile. "Why don't you go play with your cousins, sweetheart?" I said softly. Emma nodded and quickly ran off, her small footsteps fading as she disappeared into the hallway. Lulu watched her go, then turned her attention back to me. "You really should think about what's best for the piano," she said, her voice full of fake concern. "It's wasted on you, Myra. I could give it the care it deserves." I knew what she was doing. She was trying to wear me down, to make me doubt myself. But I wouldn't give in. That piano was a part of my soul, and I wasn't going to let her take it from me. "The piano stays with me," I said firmly, meeting her gaze. Lulu's smirk faded, and for a moment I saw a flicker of anger in her eyes. But she quickly masked it with a smile. "Suit yourself," she said with a shrug, "but don't say I didn't warn you." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving me standing alone by the piano. I could feel the weight of her words pressing down on me, but I refused to let them break me. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. The family continued their conversations, the children ran through the house laughing, and Lulu stayed quietly in the background, watching me with those cold, calculating eyes. But I ignored her. I focused on my grandchildren, on the joy of having my family together, and I pushed the thought of Lulu out of my mind. It wasn't until the next morning, after everyone had left and the house was quiet once again, that I noticed something was wrong. The piano lid was slightly ajar, as if someone had tried to open it in the middle of the night. My heart raced as I approached it, my hands trembling as I lifted the lid. The keys were untouched, but there was something off about the way the piano felt. I pressed a key, and the sound that echoed through the room was flat, lifeless. I tried another key, then another, but the music was gone. The piano had been tampered with. Lulu. I knew it was her. She must have snuck back into the house after everyone had gone to bed. She had sabotaged the piano, hoping to break me, to force me to give it up. My hands clenched into fists as the realization hit me. Lulu wasn't going to stop. She would keep pushing, keep trying to take what wasn't hers, until I had nothing left. But she had underestimated me. I wouldn't let her win.